May 24th, 2009, the high school graduation ceremony in the town of Dry Fork, Alabama, unfolded as peacefully and quietly as it had in all the years before. Bouquets were handed out, graduation caps soared into the sky, and the entire small town seemed to pause in a moment of pure happiness. But that very afternoon, a group of students decided to prolong the memory with one final outing together, a trip from which none of them ever returned. The old yellow school bus, officially retired from use 2 years earlier, was temporarily lent by a teacher. 11 students, all of whom had completed the morning ceremony, climbed aboard with casual clothes, snacks, a Bluetooth speaker, and the carefree mood of a long summer just beginning. According to the initial statement, they only intended to go to Cedar Lake, 40 minutes away, a familiar spot for group picnics. But as night fell, no one returned. No messages, no phone calls, no cameras recorded them arriving at the lake, and the bus, as well as the entire group of students, seemed to vanish into the shadows of a summer evening. 15 years passed. The case gradually faded into the pages of old files, and the town of Dry Fork learned to live on with unanswered questions. But in April this year, a delivery truck driver happened to check an old memory card from his Dashcam, one he had never cleared in all those years, in a video recorded 14 years earlier. Amid the blurred scenery of the forest along Highway 79, appeared the image of a yellow school bus turning left onto a dirt road that had never been marked on any map. That bus and that moment had never been captured by any other device, and that road, when people went back to look, seemed no longer to exist. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel to follow the trail of forgotten disappearances, because there are names that have never been called again. On the afternoon of May 24th, 2009, just after the graduation ceremony ended at Dry Fork High School, a group of 11 12th grade students gathered outside the school grounds. They included both boys and girls, most of whom had been classmates for many years, with a few members from the school's drama club, band, and volunteer group. After weeks of exam preparation and graduation planning, all they wanted was a relaxing afternoon, a final outing before each of them embarked on their own separate journey. The yellow school bus they used that day was no longer part of the school's official fleet. It was bus number 47, decommissioned in early 2007 due to engine issues and an unreliable air conditioning system. However, the vehicle had been kept in the school's bus lot for occasional short-distance use, according to a maintenance worker. The bus could still start if you knew how to fire it up, but it had no GPS tracking system. The person who opened the bus lot and handed over the keys was Mr. Everett Mallon, an art teacher known for being friendly and easygoing among the faculty. He told the group they could use the bus to go to Cedar Lake, as long as they returned before 7 in the evening and stayed out of trouble. Mallon also stated that he would not be going with them, and that he was just lending a hand because they were good kids, not out to do anything bad. According to other students near the school gate, the bus pulled out of the parking lot at around 2:40 in the afternoon. Loud music played, the windows were down, and some students waved from inside. They brought along 2 coolers, a Bluetooth speaker, and several bags of snacks and sodas. On the body of the bus, the paint had peeled off, revealing the number 47, which had been crossed out with black paint. The route to Cedar Lake was fairly straightforward from Dry Fork. One simply followed Route 79 southeast for about 22 miles, then turned right onto Red Hollow Road and drove another 3 miles to reach the parking area near the lake. The entire trip was expected to take only 40 to 45 minutes. However, the bus was never recorded at any point along that route. A traffic camera positioned at the Route 79 intersection, which recorded continuously, did not capture any bus matching the description during the time frame between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock. A gas station attendant near the highway, located close to the turnoff onto Red Hollow Road, also reported seeing no such bus stop there. The last time anyone in town saw the bus was around 2:55 in the afternoon, as it passed the sloped road near the historic Riverview Chapel, only about 5 miles from the school. After that, there were no further traces. Families of the students began calling one another around 6:30 in the evening, when no one had received any texts or phone calls. Some parents initially assumed the group was lingering to take photos or having a light celebration. But by 8:15, as night began to fall and no contact could be made with any of the students, the first call to the police was made by Mrs. Lorraine Cazette, the mother of a student named Dion. She stated clearly, "I know my son. If he doesn't come back on time, something is definitely wrong." The Dry Fork police received the report at 8:24 and immediately initiated the preliminary search protocol. However, without knowing the exact route the bus had taken, search teams began at Cedar Lake and expanded outward to the surrounding area, including the narrow forest roads. Throughout the night, there was no sign the bus had traveled along the standard route. Some volunteers used off-road vehicles to comb through trails leading into the nearby national forest, but no tire tracks or belongings were found. By the following morning, the bus and all 11 students were officially declared missing, although the school had never formally approved the use of bus number 47. It confirmed the vehicle belonged to them and immediately checked the bus lot, where the vehicle had been missing since the previous afternoon. In the days that followed, all hopes centered on the possibility that the bus had broken down or taken a wrong turn into the vast national forest to the east, an area riddled with unnamed dirt roads once used for logging in the 1980s. But if that were the case, the biggest question remained: why had no one, not a single driver, camera, or local resident, seen any sign of a school bus filled with students across an area spanning dozens of miles? The bus, along with the 11 students who graduated that day, had entered a blank space in the history of Dry Fork, as if they vanished from the real world just beyond a single bend in the road. Among the 11 students who went missing that day, 2 names were always mentioned first in every old photograph and every prayer gathering that followed: Ariyah Lorme and Beau Tennick. Ariyah, 17 years old, was the head of the drama club at Dry Fork High School. She was not the top student in her class, but she was the one who made the entire room fall silent every time she stepped onto the stage. Ariyah was petite, with tanned skin and deep-set eyes that always looked straight into the person she was speaking to. She often carried a small notebook with a torn red cover, where she jotted down monologues, memorable quotes, and snippets of conversations she overheard at the town cafe. She once said during a club meeting, "If I ever disappear, read my notebook, I've written everything in there." That day, Ariyah wore a black t-shirt with a print of the band The Cranberries, a birthday gift from her cousin in Georgia the year before. She did not bring a phone, as her old one had broken the week prior, and she said, "There's no need to replace it. I'm leaving here soon anyway." In the food crate brought onto the bus, Ariyah had prepared a container of pre-cut fruit, packed in a plastic box with her name labeled on the outside. What her mother remembered most afterward was not that her daughter never returned, but that the box was never found. The second was Beau Tennick, the all-around top student of the class, captain of the football team, president of the science club, and the one everyone in the school expected to win a full scholarship. He was tall, with light brown hair, always smiling, and had the habit of wearing a watch, even though he never set the time correctly. Beau had a strange contrast to him, both strong and outgoing in sports, and yet patient and meticulous in his study of astronomy. The week before graduation, Beau held a stargazing session in his backyard. He invited nearly the entire class, set up his telescope, and spoke passionately about Jupiter, the rotation of celestial bodies, and the things we'll never fully understand. Among those who attended, only Ariyah stayed the longest. There were rumors they had once dated, though they never made it public. On the morning of this disappearance, Beau left a note on the kitchen table that read, "Don't worry, Mom, I'm just going to the lake for a bit. I'll be back in the afternoon." What was strange was that Beau always sent texts. He had never left a handwritten note. That message was written on a sheet torn from the school's notepad, the kind only used in the office. His mother kept wondering, why did he use that paper? A small detail once overlooked, but later recalled, was that Beau had brought along an old film camera, a Pentax K1000 he had found at a thrift store. He told Ariyah he wanted to capture the final feeling of Dry Fork with something that couldn't be edited. The camera was never found. In the last photo taken of the group before they boarded the bus, Ariyah was sitting on the roof, one leg dangling over the side, holding the fruit container. Beau stood below, looking up at her, holding the camera. No one was looking into the lens. After the disappearance, their classmates said that if anyone could have come up with a secret place to vanish, it would have been Ariyah. and if anyone was calm enough to carry it out, it could only have been Beau. But no one believed they ever truly wanted to disappear. On the evening of May 24th, 2009, the official investigation began with the initial effort focused on tracing bus number 47, along with all 11 students. Sergeant Kevlin Morrell of Monroe County Police was the first to take command at the scene. For him, this was an unprecedented missing persons report in Dry Fork, a place where most police cases throughout the year involved minor traffic accidents and land disputes. At first, the police concentrated all efforts around Cedar Lake, the presumed destination the student group had intended to reach. Throughout the night of the 24th and the entire day of the 25th, rescue teams searched along the lake's edge. Off-road vehicles scanned all dirt paths leading into the picnic area, and even low-altitude drones were deployed from a technical team in a neighboring state. But there were no tire tracks, no footprints, no litter, nothing to suggest anyone had ever been there. One early misstep, only fully acknowledged later, was the heavy reliance on the presumed destination. Because the students said they were going to Cedar Lake. The entire operation was focused there without broadening the search from the outset. At that point, there was no GPS data, no phone calls, and no video footage confirming they had actually gone in that direction. But that assumption ended up confining the entire investigation in its most crucial early days, the most critical window in any mass disappearance. Meanwhile, bus number 47 had no GPS device. Unsurprising for a vehicle decommissioned since 2007, Dry Fork High School's tracking system had only been installed on officially active buses, and bus 47 was not among them. Moreover, the maintenance records showed prior issues with the engine and electrical system. But no one had checked the actual condition of the bus before it was used by the students. The ambiguity around the bus's operational state led to a second failure. Mechanical data could not be used for location tracking. There was no tracking chip, no travel log, and no one knew how much fuel had been in the tank. This made it impossible for investigators to estimate the maximum distance the bus could have traveled after leaving the school. Another bottleneck was the delay in collecting roadside security camera footage. Though Dry Fork is a small town, the main roads still had traffic cameras, and roadside stores had their own surveillance systems. However, most of these cameras only retained footage for 48 to 72 hours unless backup was requested early. Because the investigation focused on the Cedar Lake direction, police did not expand the camera data collection in time. By the time they realized and broadened the search, most footage had been overwritten or deleted. Notably, a gas station 18 miles west of Dry Fork, completely opposite of Cedar Lake, had security footage showing a faint image of a yellow school bus passing by at approximately 3:07 that day. But the recording was overwritten after 3 days, before police managed to retrieve it. At the time, no one considered the western direction because there was no reason the students would turn that way. Another key detail was the inaccurate statement from Mr. Everett Mallon, the teacher who lent the bus keys. Initially, Mallon said he just opened the lot for a few kids, didn't know who took the keys, and didn't stay long. However, after a second round of questioning, Mallon admitted that he did stay for a few minutes to watch the students start the bus, and he was the one who helped get the engine running. He also recalled Ariyah Lorme asking, "Is there another route that goes around without traffic?" A small detail, but one that might suggest they had planned to change the route from the beginning. This error in the initial questioning prevented investigators from focusing on witnesses who might have known the group's actual plan, resulting in significant wasted time. While search teams concentrated their efforts in the eastern national forest areas, the failure to immediately trace phone calls or text messages from the students' phones was also seen as a critical oversight. Due to limited technical infrastructure in Dry Fork, the local police did not send a location request to the mobile carriers within the first 48 hours. By the time data was retrieved, all phones from the group had lost signal within just 30 minutes after leaving the school, a suspicious fact that was not properly examined at the time. Finally, a crucial yet overlooked point was the existence of the film camera that Beau Tennick had brought. In the group photo from that morning, Beau had the camera slung over his shoulder. However, no one in the initial investigation team listed or pursued this item as a potential data source. It was only much later, when family members brought it up again, that efforts were made to track local photo development shops, but by then, it was too late. Overall, The initial investigation was compromised by three key factors: an incorrect assumption about the route, a lack of technical data, and flawed witness assessments. With no physical evidence, no independent witnesses, and no confirmed footage, the case gradually slipped into a maze with no way out. In the first weeks following the disappearance, the town of Dry Fork was enveloped not only in worry, but in a prolonged silence. It was the kind of silence that didn't come from a lack of words, but from a tightness in the chest when every question had no answer, and every hope seemed frozen in the past. The family of Ariyah Lorme was among the first to refuse to leave the search site. Her mother, Mrs. Nadira, set up a small tent near the Route 79 intersection, believed to be the last place the bus was seen, for 2 months. She went there every day from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, holding a photo of her daughter and a copied version of the red notebook, each page printed out and posted on a wooden board by the roadside. One passage read, "Sometimes people disappear not because they want to, but because something doesn't want them to stay." No one understood what that line meant, but for Mrs. Nadira, it was the last clue she could cling to. Beau Tennick's family chose a quieter approach. Mr. and Mrs. Tennick kept their home closed, declining all interviews. However, they maintained the ritual of placing a candle at their doorstep every 24th of the month, the date of the disappearance, for 5 consecutive years. In the 6th year, that small flicker could still be seen glowing in the dark, as if they feared that if the light ever stopped, someone would lose their way back. The students who hadn't taken the bus that day began forming their own search groups, unofficial, unplanned, just driving into the woods, carrying maps and group photos. One former student, Marcus Fenn, once wrote on social media, "If any of us knew what happened, then that person must be torturing themselves with it." And at Dry Fork High School, the old classroom once shared by Ariyah and Beau was locked for a time, then repurposed as a storage room. But one teacher, Miss Hallie Brim, had quietly placed a small board behind a cabinet door, listing the names of each missing student in white chalk. Later, when the room was renovated, the board was found still intact, untouched, as if memory couldn't be erased just by changing the function of a room. From the school side, the greatest pressure came from the community. Many parents voiced criticism about allowing students access to a bus that was unfit for use, as well as the lack of oversight on graduation day. The administration at the time, led by Principal Dale Connors, held only one press conference, then refused to appear in public the following year. Mr. Connors took early retirement. However, not everyone was forgiven. Mr. Everett Mallon, the teacher who lent the bus keys, became the silent target of blame. Though never charged criminally, he was shunned in town, continued teaching for 1 more year, then requested a transfer to another state. In a rare interview, he said, "I just thought I was helping the kids make a memory. I didn't know it would be their last." But beyond all the evidence, maps, and fragmented conversations, what remained was the waiting of those who had never given up. Each year, on May 24th, the people of Dry Fork held a small memorial at the old schoolyard. There were no speeches, no singing, just 11 chairs lined in a row, each with a photo of one of the students on the backrest. And as darkness fell, they lit candles, not to illuminate, but to preserve something even more fragile than light, the belief that absence can still have a voice. In April of 2024, exactly 15 years after the disappearance, a delivery driver named Ron Geller happened to check an old memory card from the dashcam he had installed on his Ford Transit van back in 2009. That SD card, nearly forgotten, was found as Ron was packing up to move to Arkansas. Out of curiosity, he decided to open it and paused at a video clip less than 2 minutes long. It was May 24th, 2009. The footage showed a quiet stretch of road, lined with scrub and red dirt, part of a little-used branch of Highway 79. The time was around 3:10 in the afternoon. In the video, a yellow school bus appeared from behind and turned left onto a dirt road, where there were no signs, no markings. What was unusual was that the camera clearly captured the rear license plate of the bus, covered by a piece of cardboard taped with black duct tape. Ron didn't notice anything strange until he saw the black paint slashed through the number 47 on the bus's side. He didn't remember the disappearance, but his wife, who had grown up in Dry Fork, immediately recognized it as the bus from that day. After verification by local police and the Alabama Bureau of Investigation, the video was forwarded to the federal investigative team that had archived the original case files. That dirt road became the first concrete clue to break 15 years of silence. However, when investigators returned to the area captured in the video, they couldn't find the road. The region had been altered by a logging operation in 2011 and a subsequent forest conservation project. Nevertheless, based on landmarks in the video, specifically a broken utility pole in the shape of a mound, they pinpointed the area that may have contained the old road, now overgrown with wild vegetation. A limited excavation was conducted. On May 17, 2024, the survey team discovered a shard of yellow glass roughly the size of an old bus window, buried deep under displaced soil. Nearby was a charred leather strap, faintly etched with the letters K1000, matching the model of the camera Beau Tennick had carried. At the same time, a group of independent investigative journalists who had followed the case since 2015 announced a new finding. They had acquired a hard drive from a vintage camera repair shop in Fayetteville, 90 miles from Dry Fork. On the drive was data from scanned film negatives, mostly damaged black and white images, though a few were still recognizable. In one photo, Ariyah was seen sitting inside the bus, the window open, with a backdrop of low shrubs and a broken wooden sign that read, C. Cedar C. Air. Based on the partial name, investigators speculated this might refer to a defunct campground called Stiller Cedar Campground, which had been closed in 1994 due to water contamination. More shocking was another photo, showing the shadowy figure of a man standing in the distance, wearing what looked like a driver's uniform. Though no one in the group had been officially recorded as the bus driver that day, police confirmed bus number 47 had no registered driver in the official records. That detail revived a theory once dismissed in 2009 for lack of evidence. The students had not driven the bus themselves, but had been taken by someone else. Mr. Everett Mallon, the teacher who had lent the keys, was re-questioned. Initially, he claimed he had only helped start the engine and left right away. But when confronted with the newly surfaced images, he fell silent for a long time. Eventually, he admitted, "There was a man named Roy who used to drive for the school back in 2005. He'd borrowed money from me a few times. That day, I saw him standing at the bus lot, but I didn't think much of it, just figured he was running errands." The name Roy did not appear in any employee records from Dry Fork High between 2007 and 2009. However, from older files, investigators identified a man named Roy Brinsley, who had worked as a part-time driver for 6 months before being dismissed following an unresolved conflict. His personal records were incomplete, no residential address, no tax records since 2010. He had seemingly vanished from the system. A former student, one of the classmates of the missing group, recalled seeing a strange man near the school on graduation day, standing among the trees close to the parking lot. When shown a composite sketch of Roy from 2006, the student confirmed, "I think that was him. I just assumed he was someone's uncle." Police redirected their investigation to the forest area near the Stiller Cedar Campground, the place referenced in the photograph. There, beneath the bricks of a collapsed cabin, they discovered a rusted key ring with a lock plate bearing the Dry Fork School District logo, along with several fragments of yellow plastic. But what shook the investigation was a discovery inside the wooden compartment of the cabin, a handwritten letter, unsigned, written in black ink with slanted handwriting. "We didn't think we were being tricked, but when someone says they'll give you one last memory, how can you say no? Now, I don't know if anyone will ever read this, but if you do, stop searching. Some things are not meant to come back." The paper was identified as the same type used in Dry Fork High's office supplies. The handwriting, based on preliminary analysis, was found to have a 78% likelihood of matching Ariyah Lorme's. But without an original sample for direct comparison, it remained speculation. All the clues, The video footage, the film photographs, the burned camera strap, the old sign, and the letter began to fit together. The bus did not go to Cedar Lake, but turned down a dirt road leading to the abandoned campground. The driver was not one of the students, but a man who may have once worked as a bus driver. The students did not disappear willingly, but were lured, enticed, or possibly deceived by the promise of one final memory. The remaining question: what happened inside that campground? If you found this story meaningful, please like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, because there are still many disappearances that have never been told.